Welcome, listeners, to Voices That Move Us. This podcast is hosted by the 2025 Fellows of the Washington Leadership Institute. WLI is a leadership development program in Washington State that seeks to recruit, train, and develop traditionally underrepresented attorneys for future leadership positions. We are celebrating 20 years of the Washington Leadership Institute, a visionary collaboration between the Washington State Bar Association and the 3 law schools in Washington. Each episode features compelling stories from WLI alumni, diverse attorneys who have gone on to lead in powerful, sometimes unexpected ways across law, policy, business, and the community. These are the stories that build legacy, fuel change, and inspire a more inclusive future. Today we are joined by Francis Adewale, the President-elect of the Board of Governors of the Washington State Bar Association. He is a career public defender who practices in Spokane and has deep roots in his community and in the legal community of Washington State more generally. He serves on the board of the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, an adjunct professor at Whitworth University and Gonzaga Law School, a WLI alum of the class of 2009. Francis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. I want to start our time together helping our listeners get to know you a little bit better. Would you mind sharing with us a little bit about what originally drove you to the practice of law?
I grew up in Nigeria. I was born in Nigeria, in southwest Nigeria. And in 1983, there was a military coup in Nigeria. On the day of the coup, my grandfather took myself and my younger brother. He was taking us to his farm because every end of the year, during the holidays, he takes us to his farm to get to know what farming looks like. And we were on that trip. My grandfather did not know that there was a coup. So whenever there is a military putsch in Nigeria, they would impose curfew and stop anyone from going anywhere. So he did not knew there was no knowledge whatsoever. There was just martial music on the radio. So he packed all of the stuff and we were on our way to the farm when we were accosted by soldiers and military who stopped us and stopped my grandfather and started beating him. And they really, they beat him and then arrested him and dragged me along with him. At this time, my little brother, who was way, way smarter than I, dropped everything that he was carrying and started running and went back home to report to my dad. But I was arrested along with my grandfather.
And how old were you when you were arrested?
I was about 14 years old.
Wow.
My little brother was about 9 years old. I was arrested and taken to their guard room. They call it the military guard room and police station. And I was locked up with my grandfather. And until my dad came, my dad was able to convince them to release me and my grandfather, and he wrote a petition against these officers and all of that. And my dad was able to get us released because he had a lawyer friend who came with him to effect our release, because they had no basis to arrest me or to arrest my grandfather, because at the announcement of the curfew did not stop people from being able to do their work. So that lawyer explained things to the officers, and some of the officers that arrested my grandfather, they were really, really drunk and nasty to him. They were drunk with power and drunk with alcohol. You could smell it on them. And so myself and my little brother got an idea of what it is to stand for the law from that experience. So today, I'm a lawyer, and my brother is also a lawyer because of that experience, that searing experience that we had. My little brother is an attorney in Nigeria, and he focused on civil rights law too. So that's my story. That's how I came to law. Thank you.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about your journey as you became a lawyer? Did you first get barred in Nigeria? Did you get barred here in the United States? Can you tell us more about that?
Thank you. I was a lawyer in Nigeria for 7 years. I was actually 7.5 years. And I happened to be one of those lucky ones that won the green card lottery. And I came to the States in 1999. And, the green card lottery doesn't give you anything other than the fact that you got a visa to be able to come. I knew no one. I had no idea of where I was going. My friend said, well, I have a friend in Maryland, in Washington, D.C. suburb, that could help you, that you can stay with. So I came and I stayed with his friend, and that enables me to be able to start preparing for the bar exam. I got to know that Illinois and Washington State, New York and Washington State allows you, if you are, at that time, if you had practiced in a common law country. Common law countries are countries that took their law from English law. So Canada, India, Nigeria, they are all common law countries. They are not civil law countries. So if you have practiced law in those countries, there is reciprocity that enables us to be able to come in and you sit directly for the bar exam. If you pass, you can start practicing. But you must have practiced in your home country for 7 years before then. So since I practiced for 7 years before then, I put in my application and I sat for the bar exam on my first attempt and I passed. That was unique because a lot of colleagues in my office that went to law school in US, when I got to the firm, they were surprised that I came from a foreign country and I started for the exam. Some of them had to take the exam 1 or 2 times and they said, how did you do it? I said, I just sat for the exam. So it was quite an experience. That's how I came to law. Then I was living in Washington, D.C., and I was looking for a job. I would fly into Seattle, went through the recruitment process. No law firm was willing to give me a chance because I had a very thick accent, as you could notice. And so I can't fault people because at that time my accent was really, really difficult to hear. But, it takes someone willing to give someone like me a chance for me to prove myself that I can really do the job. So I kept trying to practice in Seattle until a friend of mine called and said, why are you trying to go to Seattle? Seattle is not the only city in Washington. There is also Spokane. I said, Spokane? I didn't know there is a place called Spokane. And so he was able to give me some guidance. And I came to look for a job. I went around all the law firms in Spokane. And one of them is actually where I work today. And I talked to the director then, and she said, I'm sorry, there is no open position at this time, but if something open, we will let you know. 2 weeks later, I got a call from her. She said, well, we had a very experienced lawyer that is resigning and leaving, and if you are interested in taking this spot. I go, really? He said, when do you want to start? I said, well, can I at least have 2 weeks? So I got 2 weeks from her to pack my stuff from DC, and I came to Spokane almost 25 years ago now, and I never left.
And you've been there ever since?
I've been in that same public defender, City of Spokane Public Defender's Office. About a year after I got to Spokane, I was doing a trial because I was a temp seasonal employee, because they didn't give me, usually when you first get in, you don't get permanent employment. I was doing a trial, about a year in, I was doing a trial, and the county public defenders, there is city public defender's office where I was working, and there is county public defender's office. The county public defender's office director was sitting in the courtroom listening to me make and run this trial, doing my opening statement and everything. At the end of the trial, I got a not guilty plea, and he came out, and his name, by the way, his name is he's a federal magistrate, John Rogers. He came and shook my hand and said, "If you want to work for me, I would like to hire you." And so at that time, I went back to the office and I told my boss, I said, I don't have a permanent job with you, and I've just been offered a permanent job, and I would like to take the chance. She said, "Can you give me a few hours? And I'm going to go talk to the city council and see if they will create a position for you." And that's how she went, and within 24 hours, she got the position created, and I was able to get a permanent position with the city of Spokane. And that's why I never left. I could have been working for the county public defender's office today. But that's the story of how I started practicing criminal law in Spokane, in the city of Spokane, and I've been able to do a couple of things since then to try to change the face of the practice in Spokane.
That's cool. Do you have a specific area of criminal law that you prefer to practice?
Basically, I do misdemeanor criminal defense. That's what we do in the city of Spokane. I have some colleagues in the office that do felony conflict cases. After a couple of years doing the same thing over and over again, I discovered that majority of the people we serve, that we represent, they were doing a life sentence, 20, 30 days at a time. And I was so sad about the situation, and I approached my boss, and she said, don't give up on us. We are working on it. Around the same time, I also, in 2008, I got invited to the WLI. I applied, and through the help of George Tompkins and others who knew about the program, invited me to apply, and Nancy Isalis in Spokane, and they said, I think you would be good for this program. So I applied to WLI, and I came, and it just opened my eyes, and I got back from WLI willing to quit. I just can't keep doing the same job, because you are basically an undertaker. At that time, I started representing the grandchildren of the grandparents I was representing when I first got to Spokane. It was so sad, and I was not happy at all. And then that particular December, I went to the homeless shelter, and I saw on the list of people that died, out of the 12 homeless people that died that year, about 7 to 8 of them were my clients.
That has to be difficult.
That was really rough. It was a rough times for me, because WLI helped me to open my eyes to the fact that you can't just be a lawyer. The community have some expectations with regards to you being a lawyer, and that leadership, you can solve people's problem one file at a time, or you can do a community advocacy that will really change a lot of people's lives, so that you don't have to be an undertaker. So I told my boss, I said, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't care if I don't get another job. I'm just going to resign. So Kathy Knox, late Kathy Knox, we had a funeral a couple of weeks ago. She's passed on to glory now. But she assured me that there is hope, that I shouldn't give up, that they are working on a program, and that if I want to be part of the team that is putting the program together, that I'm welcome to do that.
And so, Francis, when you were talking about the impact WLI had both on you and then on your job, you mentioned something about the community having expectations on us as attorneys. Could you tell me a little bit about what you feel are your community's expectations on you as an attorney and as a fellow of WLI?
So at that time, WLI helped me to see that leadership is not just about, 9-to-5 job, you push your files and you wait to become partners or become directors and everything. Not everyone can become directors, but you can impart lives. You can change your community. You can change people's lives. And so when the opportunity come to start the community court, I was one of those people that helped put together. Judge Logan, of course, had the vision and told us about it. Myself and my colleagues, Adam Papini, just sat down and began to put the nuts and bolts together and all of that. And so that's how we established Spokane Community Court, which 15 years later now has been able to be an inspiration to so many other community courts all over the country. It's a specialized therapeutic court that is focused on the homeless folks and to houseless folks to help, transition them instead of doing 20, 30 days jail at a time, to be able to get to the root of the problem that is driving it. And if they want the therapeutic process, not everybody wants the therapeutic process. If they do want the therapeutic process, we prefer to have a program that addresses those concerns so that they won't be back in jail over and over again. And it saves money, because at the end of the day, when they are doing 20, 30 days jail at a time over these misdemeanor charges, you discover that the taxpayers are paying. Yeah. They're paying. So, at one point I used to say that we may as well put them all in the most expensive hotel in Spokane. Davenport Hotel is about $120 per day, and to put someone in jail is about $167 per day. It makes sense to just house them in hotel and all of that, but if you don't address the root cause of the problem, you are not going to get to that place. So we started doing that, and all over the country we have had from Oregon all the way to Wisconsin to Texas. Other courts have looked to Spokane Community Court for inspirations. Northern California, we had people come in, and Utah, we have people come in to watch our court and see how they can learn from us, and took our forms to help start their own court. So that is what WLI helped me do. Helped me look beyond where I was to be accountable to the community where I comes from, to give back to that community, and in that way, I'm helping myself. Because when my community is healthy, I'm healthy. When my community is whole, I'm whole. When my community is not whole, there's something missing in me. So I'm really grateful for that, and the experience of having to have some of your colleagues and the network all around the states that's really of people that are making impact in their community, and we still connect with each other all over the country, and it's such a joy to have an opportunity to be part of the WLI.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I want to touch on one more thing about Spokane before we keep talking more about WLI. So you had mentioned earlier that you've been in practice for about 25 years here in the United States. How have you seen the Spokane legal community in particular, and then just like the Washington legal community in general, change over the last 25 years? Like, has it improved? Has it maybe become worse in some areas? Like, how do you see the health of our legal community?
Well, the legal community, we are constantly evolving. What has happened is whenever there is a crisis, the legal process responds better to crisis than to preventative criminal justice. And that's the problem that I see that we need to really focus on. We wait until there is a crisis, and then when there's a crisis, we throw a bunch of things on the wall and see which one is going to stick. And as time recedes from that experience, we forgot how we got there. And we started doing the same old things that got us into that crisis in the first place. But my hope is in you guys. The next generation of attorneys are not going to put up with all that nonsense. Just like my generation did not want to sit down and fold our hands and do one jail time. I mean, it was not that I was losing cases. I was winning trials for my cases, for my clients. But I won the trial, but 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, my client is back in jail. How is that progress? I made the most passionate arguments, and I mean, the first 6 trials I did in Spokane, I won about 4 of them. And I had people who were willing to give me a chance, Jurors were willing to give me a chance. It was not for lack of trying that I focused on diverse therapeutic court. It was because I discovered that the victory was my victory, but because we didn't address the root cause of the problem for the clients, they are back over this for the same type of charges over and over and over and over again.
And so would you say there's a pre-therapeutic court Spokane and a post-therapeutic
For
court
me,
Spokane?
in my experience, I had a pre-therapeutic court and a post because I just couldn't do it anymore. One case, one person at a time. It wasn't do. Now, more importantly, is community advocacy. And from that experience, I've gone on to serve on statewide level. I was the chair of the Access to Justice Board, which also make me see the connection between the criminal justice system and the civil legal system. We have a very, very deep gulf between the resolutions of criminal cases and civil cases. In criminal cases, Gideon allows you to be able, the case Gideon allows you to be able to have an attorney at the expense of the state if you're poor. If you're poor and you have a civil case pending, you're on your own. And the civil legal aid community have tried a lot. So what we also discovered that we can resolve the criminal problem, but if the underlying problem that is driving the criminogenic needs is related or conflicted by the civil legal needs, if you don't solve the civil legal needs, you are just putting plaster on wound without any care. You're not solving the problem. So that has been the reason why, when I serve on the Access to Justice Board, it just breaks my heart that we are not funding civil legal aid. And so that has been a passion of mine because I see the benefit for my criminal justice clients because their civil legal needs are not being solved. And it has grown since then. So.
Absolutely. I'm a civil legal aid attorney too, so I understand what you mean about the gulf between the access, because for every 10 people who come in, we're maybe only able to serve 5.
Exactly.
Right? So there is an entire population of people out there that do need legal assistance, and the state needs to come in and fund those budget holes. I want to move us along a little bit now to talk more about your experience with WLI. I know you teased that out for us a little bit earlier. One of the biggest focus areas of the Washington Leadership Institute is helping fellows develop their leadership style. How have you felt your leadership style evolve throughout the course of your career? And maybe we can divide that like before WLI and then after.
All right. Let the record reflect. At this time, I took off my glasses and wiped my brows and look at the two of you and say, what? All right. Well, this is a very good question. How has WLI helped me develop my leadership style? One of the things that happened during my WLI year, which is 2008, I think it's the third cohort. either the second or the third cohort or fourth cohort. I can't remember. But it was in 2008. I remember vividly. It was the year, the coordinators of the program were Judge Mary Yu. She was the King County judge at that time. Now she is the Chief Justice. She's one of the justices of the Supreme Court. And as well as James Williams, of course. Everybody loves James. And so this was the event that WLI's cohort would usually have with bar leaders. And on that day, we were all in a room like this. We are mixing with Washington State Bar Association leaders. At that year, president was Sal Munjia, who is today Justice of the Supreme Court. Members of my cohort includes Nick Brown, the Attorney General, and so many others, judges that are all over the states. They were in my cohort. But there's something that Sal Munjia said that really I picked up on. And he said in that meeting that day that you have a unique opportunity to help your profession as bar leaders. We have invested in you because we believe that this bar needs to be more diverse, more welcoming, more open to every communities in Washington. And so it just inspired us. At the end, they asked if anyone has any question. I don't just raise my hand, I wave my hand. And so I stood up and I said, I do have a question. Is there any hope for someone like me? This has been, for someone like me that came from nowhere, that I would even be in this room is an honor. That WLI made it possible for someone like me to be in this room. I was born in a small village in Africa and I came to America. I had no hope whatsoever. I know no one. I had no royal lineage. I have nothing to show that, you come to America. I have no godfather, no one. And today I'm sitting in the midst of you. You are asking me to step up into bar leadership. Do you know what that means? And it was Samunjia just, look at me straight in the eyes. He said, yes, this country is available to everyone. That is what I got out of that meeting. And then there's so many other things that happened during the WLI that really infused hope in me. I went back to Spokane ready to lead and ready to do everything. I came back and I told my boss, I said, if I'm only going to be restricted to doing this job, I may not last. But if you will let me continue to work with the community to do some work that I'm really determined to do, then I promise you my job will not suffer. And my job never suffered. So, and that inspires me. It also, then later when Justice Munjia today he was my predecessor as the chair of the Access to Justice Board. And whenever he gets us together, he always said one thing, that the minority should always have their say. The majority will have the vote, but never ever forget that minority should have a voice. He kept on repeating that to me over and over. You know how sometimes you believe in the righteousness of your cause, and so much so that you have a mob behind you ready and you think this is the majority. But sometimes you are not willing to listen to the other side. What Justice Munjia taught me during my time on Asset to Justice Board is that if you are willing to give other people opportunity to hear them, some minority wisdom today may become the majority wisdom tomorrow. So ability to be able to listen is my leadership development goals. To listen more, to listen to hear what others are saying. That's something unique that is lost today because we are a nation so divided that it's always, one way and the other one are foolish. They don't know what they're talking about. You are the only one that is right. And that's really engenders strife and creates divisions. And people are set in their ways, and that's not good. So if there is any development ideas that I can share with you all is the fact that you must be willing to listen and not predatory listening. Predatory listening is when you are listening because you want to grab one or two things you want to use against them. Really, really productive listening is when you are listening to learn, to listen to hear the other side. In English law, we call it audi alteram partem, hear the other side. Mm-hmm. So you must be willing to listen to the other side.
So not the kind of listening we sometimes do in court when we're trying to figure out the weakness of the...
The weakness of the... When I train young attorneys for trials, I always tell them, put down your pen. Listen to what the other counsel is saying. If you are listening so that you can pick up what is wrong, you are missing out on a whole lot of things. And the cases I've won have always been because I was willing to listen to what the prosecutor's arguments were. And then I was able to use that in my favor because I can see the totality of the case, not just my case. Because if you're so focused on your case, you are going to lose. Because you are not going to be able to pick up on what is making the other side, what argument is on the other side. Because if you were able to listen, you will get, this is why their fact looks a little bit different from mine. This is what is driving them. So you learn a lot from that. You have to be willing to listen. So my leadership development has been enhanced by that experience from WLI.
Thank you for sharing that. We have just a couple of more questions here because I'm cognizant of the time. I want to move us to talk a little bit about some current events. As you know, there have been a lot of immigration protests happening in the city of Spokane. I have to ask, could you please give listeners a little bit of an insight about what the protests are about and what the police response has been?
Well, this is ongoing event, and a couple of weeks ago, it's almost 3 weeks or 4 weeks now, there were protesters that were protesting against ICE arrest in Spokane, and I did not know that protest was going to be going on that day. I was just, walking in my yard. I have a garden where I plant tomatoes and pepper and all of that, and I'm always, when I get back from work, I focus on my garden. I was doing all of that, and then I got a call from a 12-year-old girl, and she said, "Is this Francis?" And I said, "Yes, it's me." She said, "My mom said when she get in trouble, she should call you. And so I need you to help me bring my mom home. Please don't let her spend the night in jail. Please bring my mom home for me." So I said, "Who is your mom?" He said, "Don't you remember me?" He said, "I'm Angel's daughter." Now I connect the dots. Angel is one of our Native American activists in Spokane that is always on the forefront of, standing for justice. And she also worked with me in the nonprofit, which I'm the executive board chair on. And so I just ran inside, grabbed a few things, and I was running out. And my wife said, "Come back, come back. Where are you going? You are in your pajamas. You are running out of the house." I said, "I'm going to jail." He said, "You can't go to jail in that outfit." And now it dawned on me that I need to change. And so I could quickly change, and we were able to connect with some of my colleagues that were already there. They were already interviewing, including, of course, one of your colleagues, Sarah, was there along with Morgan Maxey. So we were there till about 2 a.m. trying to make sure we get everybody out, and we did. But we got them out from the misdemeanor charges, they dismissed the misdemeanor charges, but now we just got notice yesterday, and I think it was on Wednesday, that the U.S. Attorney for Eastern Washington is filing charges from the same incident against 9 of the protesters. And so we have other attorneys that are stepping up. I just play a small role. There are other people playing bigger roles in making sure that no protesters is left in jail. It just reminds me of what we used to go through during the military rule in Nigeria, where the law doesn't matter. It is the will of the person in charge of the country.
It must feel like a full circle moment, but
Yes.
a bad way.
Yeah, in a very, very bad way. But the big difference again is that this is still America. If we put our focus on what is important, which is the rule of law, every member of this society, every resident of Washington believe that the rule of law is able to keep us away from danger. Everyone. I've never seen anyone that says, let's do self-help. Everybody believes in the justice system. And so, if there is that belief in the justice system, we just have to, as attorneys, as legal practitioners, make sure we do our job. And we can do our job, we can teach the next generation a new lesson. Just as the generation of the 60s with Dr. King and others. So there is hope. But in the middle of all of this crisis, I see hope. We cannot afford to be an incurable pessimist. Because then, if hope is gone, if hope is lost, we will be miserable. Our community will suffer, especially for the brown and black community that is under assault, especially the immigrant community that is under perpetual assault. Like you said, I'm on the board of NOP, Northwest Immigration Rights Project. It just breaks my heart every time we have a board meeting. The staff are putting on huge hours, unimaginable hours. The other day we got a report that the Tacoma immigration centers it's like one attorney to 300 people. I can't remember the statistics now, but it was just too many people, and they are bunching people together, and people are sleeping on top of each other. And I don't care whether you are documented or undocumented. The dignity of human beings is what defines justice. Okay? When I explain to people that they don't have a case, they are willing to take it because there is that opportunity to be able to explain to them, this is why you don't have a case. They know that there is limit to justice. But when someone says, justice doesn't matter, I get to do to you whatever I want, it's just not right. And I hope that we as a society, we continue to stand up for the rule of law, to stand up for those people who do not have a voice, who do not have an opportunity like so many of us. You and I, we are very, very privileged. We are male, That's a privilege in America. And we are lawyers. That's a huge privilege in America. We know where we're going to find our next meal. That's a huge privilege in America. There is so many black, brown, white that do not know where they're going to sleep tonight.
Yep.
That do not know where they're going to find the next dinner, to eat. Some are active. One of our cases in community court, I always explain this. I did this in my in one of the TED talk that I did. I talked about the fact that I have a client that wake up in the morning, under the bridge, have nowhere to sleep, and made it to the store and grabbed an apple. The apple cost 14 cents. He took a bite of the apple because he's hungry. He doesn't have an ID to be able to get a food stamp. He doesn't know where to go. He suffers from mental health. He took a bite of an apple and is charged with theft for taking a bite of the apple. The state is willing to pay by the way, that's a gross misdemeanor. Theft, city theft is a gross misdemeanor. The state is willing to keep him in jail for 364 days rather than provide an opportunity to get ID, to get food stamp, to get into shelter, to get him to the hospital, and all of that. That is not the society that we all wanted. America is a beacon of hope. I was in my village when Peace Corps member came into my village and was writing on the board. I was a young kid, 6 or 7 years old. They inspire me of a country on the other side of the Atlantic where people that look like me do not have rights in the 1700s. There was a civil war to fight for blacks to be able to have a right, to be able to vote, to be able to have dignity of the human beings. And they gave me a picture of this great country. And I told them, I said, if I ever have an opportunity, I want to go to that. I want to be a citizen of that country. So we can't give up hope. We still have a lot of work to do. Okay?
Absolutely. And on the note of hope, at the close of all of our interviews, we ask our guests to provide us some forward-thinking last words. So, Francis, what is something that gives you hope about our country, our legal community, our lives? If you could please share with our listeners.
What gives me hope is this quote from Mr. Justice's story, from Mr. Webster in Mr. Justice's story. He said, "Justice, sir, is the greatest interest of man on earth. It is the ligament which holds civilized beings and civilized nations together. Wherever our temple stands, and so long as it is duly honored, there is a foundation for social security, general happiness, and the improvement and progress of all races." That is, to me, what gives me hope. As long as we keep fighting for justice, there is hope.
Thank you so much for your time, Francis. I really appreciate it. And thank you for listening to The Voices That Move Us. Check out our other episodes featuring prominent leaders of the Washington legal community. Thank you.